Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another wonderful week here at the Agudas Yisrael Be'ezev. Today, as you know, is an extraordinarily special day. Lag Ba'omer, Haid Shebahaid, is known as Hilula de Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. The specialness of the day can be seen in the Maril. The Maril clears a shaila if somebody made a neder that he won't eat on a weekday unless it's a Sudas mitzvah. So he discusses the days that he's allowed to eat. He talks about a bris, a pidyon aben. One of the days he says is, of course, if you eat Lag Ba'omer, the K'vod Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, it's definitely a Sudas mitzvah. Maril. Shimon ben Yochai is B'gematria 553. It's exactly B'gematria Mechaye Mason. So, this is not a story that's ancient. This happened in 1923. In 1923, 101 years ago, Rabbi Yeshaya Osher Zelig Margolius writes in his Sefer, he was there at the time that it happens. He's saying first-hand testimony that Lag Ba'omer fell out in 1923, Thursday night, Friday. So people that came, a lot of them stayed already for the weekend. And he says that on Friday, there were the traditional hair cuttings, upsherins, halakas, and the family of one of the children stayed for Shabbos. And Friday night, the child all of a sudden stopped breathing. And the child died. And there was a tremendous, grief on the whole olam of Mesamchim. To make matters a lot worse, at that time the British were in charge. And the British heard that the baby died. They spread a rumor that the plague started. So they sealed Reb Shimon Bar Yochai's kever, locking everybody in. The mother picked up the child, took it inside the Mara, and said, I came here because we came 3 years ago and we begged for a child. And we were given a child. And my husband couldn't come. I came alone to do the upsharing. How can I go back with a dead child? Please. And she left the child inside. And Rav Malgulia says he saw it, that the child cried out that he's thirsty. They came in, they brought the child to the British. The British had to open up the gates. The child was alive. And he says this was an example that he saw in modern times. Because Rav Malgulia says the child was lifeless. The Shimon ben Yochai, the Gematria Mechai Mason. There's no question about it that there's a tremendous koyach in this day of tefillah We know that the reason why we make bonfires is because Reb Shimon bar Yochai wanted to finish revealing the Teres HaNister, and he knew that he was supposed to die this day, so he prayed that the sun should continue shining until he finished. And the sun lasted longer, and that's why we light torches. It's very appropriate that I should be recording now, since I'm doing a chok tonight, which of course includes the Teres HaZayar from Reb Shimon bar Yochai. Tonight, Pikudei Day 2 has a fascinating Zayar about how it's a terrible thing if people speak nivel peh, and then with the same mouth they say Hashem's name, causes them to be banished, nidui, in Shemayim for 40 days, and the tefillos are not accepted. We ask that in the schus of Reb Shimon bar Yochai, everyone should be gesund, mentally gesund, to be able to learn Torah at Bias Gael. We now learn the Mishna Yomis, and before I start the Mishna Yomis, let me just announce, since TorahAnytime.com is having today and tomorrow their annual fundraiser, that those that are viewing on TorahAnytime.com and are benefiting should consider to donate to TorahAnytime.com. Those of my Chaver Adaf and Chaver Chamishir that are aware of our WhatsApp group could donate on Irving Fishbound's page. He has a page, but if not, it's easy to donate to TorahAnytime.com. We're dedicated by the Fisher family, Lila Nishmas Basya Bas Rabit, Shlomo ben Avram Alevi, Perel Bas Ruvain, and also Lila Nishmas Avram Yeshaya ben Shmayo Yosef, Eliyahu Moshe ben Chayesara, Lefu Shalema, for Meir ben Chayesara, the schus of Avram Yom Benish ben Malki Yehudis, and by Yoel Klugman and family. So we talked about in the previous Mishnah that certain things have to be b'lashon HaKodesh, in the holy tongue. And the source of many of them is the brachos uklalos that were said on Har Grizim and Har Eival. So brachos uklalos ketzad, what was the procedure of the blessings and the curses that the Levium said by Har Grizim and Har Eival? Kevin she'avru Yisrael as Yarden, when Klal Yisrael miraculously crossed the Yarden, uvo el Har Grizim el Har Eival sheb'Shamron, and they arrived at Har Grizim and Har Eival in the Shamron, shebetzad Shechem, that was next to Shechem. Remember, this was very important that they go back to Shechem, because they kidnapped Yosef in Shechem, and therefore they had to rectify that by returning him to Shechem. Shebe'etzel Eloinei Moirei, which was alongside Eloinei Moirei. We're going to see that Shechem and Eloinei Moirei are the same place. Shelnemar Halohema be'ever HaYarden. It says that they were on the Transjordan, near Eloinei Mamre, Ulahalan Oimer Vayavar Avram Ba'aretz Ad Mikayim Shechem Ad Elon Moreh, until the place of Shechem, until Elon Moreh. Ma Elon Moreh ha'amar lahalin by Avram Avinu Shechem, af Elon Moreh ha'amar kan Shechem. Now, in the process of the curses and the blessings, Shisha Shvatim Olul Rosh Har Grizim, 6 Shvatim went up on top of Har Grizim. The 6 Shvatim that went on top of Har Grizim was Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Yosef, and Binyamin. And Shisha Shvatim Olul L'Rosh Har Eival, that was Reuven, Gad, Asher, Zvulun, Dan, and Naphtali. V'Kahanim v'Alevim v'Aaron oimdim l'mata be'emsa. And the Kahanim encircling the Aaron and then the Levium encircling the Kahanim stood below, in between the two mountains. HaKahanim Akifin es ha'aron, the Kahanim encircled the Aron, v'Levium es ha'Kahanim, the Levium encircled the Kahanim, v'chol Yisrael mikan mikan. And all of Klal Yisrael was on either side. Shenema b'chol Yisrael was a Kena v'shaitim. All of Klal Yisrael, its elders, its officers, v'shaiftav, its judges, Eindim mizel la'aron, stood on either side of the Aron. Hafchu pneim klape ha'grizim, the Levium turned themselves to ha'grizim, upaschu b'bracha, and they started by bracha. Baruch ha'ish asher lo yaseh pesel u'maseicha, whoever doesn't, blessed is the man who doesn't make a graven image, or a molten image, a melted image. Ve'elu oinen amen, and both those on ha'grizim and Har Evel answered amen. Hafchu pneim klape Har Evel, then they turned to Har Evel. Upaschu baklala, Ororoish, cursed is a man, asher yaseh pesel, who makes a graven image of avodah zarah, maseicha, melted metal image. Ve'elu oinen amen, both answered amen. Ad shegoyim brachas v'klalos, until they finished all the brachas and the klalos. V'achar kach heviu es ha'avonim, then what happened is in order to remember the miracle of crossing the Yarden, they took 12 huge stones from the middle of the Yarden, from the bed of the Yarden. They took these 12 stones, uvanu es hamizbeach, they built an altar, v'sadur b'sid, they coated it with lime, they offered karbanas, and then v'kasvo alav es kol divrei HaTorah, they wrote the whole Torah shebiksav, b'shivim lashon, in 70 languages. The Rab says, so that the Goyim shouldn't be able to say that it wasn't available to them. Shenema ba'er heitev, explained well. And then v'notlu es ha'avonim, they took these stones, they took it apart, they took these stones, v'lanu b'mekayman, and they took them and they set them up in Gilgal, where they were a remembrance of the nace of the splitting of the Yarden. Michal Avram, do you get a mazel tov?
Yes, I got it.
So we want to, in the name of the entire Kehillah, wish a very, very wonderful mazel tov to Michal Avram on becoming a chassan today. And the Kala's full name is?
Shira Eldon.
And to his Kala, who I've met, and she's a wonderful woman, who was never married. So it's a really big simcha, Shira Eldon. So we wish you that you should be zeicha to build a bayis nema b'Yisrael with great health, happiness, and everything wonderful. It's a huge simcha for our shul. Birchas Kehanim Ketzad. Mishna Vav tells us, what about the blessings of the Kehanim? How do we know that has to be in Hebrew? B'Medina Omrim, so first of all, what's the procedure? So B'Medina, not in the Mikdash, so Oymin Oisa Shalosh Brachas, like we do, right? The first one ending V'Yishmerecha, the second one V'Chuneka, the third one V'Yasem L'cha Shalom. Ubamikdash bracha echas. In the Mikdash, they didn't stop to say Kein Yehi Ratzon or Amen. They said Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusai only after the ineffable name, because they said Yud Kei Vav Kei, and therefore it was said all as one bracha. But Mikdash Aimer as Hashem Kiksavai, they pronounce Yud Kei Vav Kei. Uba Medina Bekinuya, in the Medina we say Aleph Daled Nun Yud. But Medina Kehanim Noisin as Yedem Keneged Kispeim. They only brought their hands up to their shoulder height. However, Uba Migdash Al Gabe Rosheim, in the Migdash they raised it all the way up above their heads. Chutz Mekain Gadol, except for the Kain Gadol that didn't raise it above the tzitz. The tzitz had Kaddish LaHashem, so the Kain Gadol didn't raise it above the tzitz. Chutz Mekain Gadol she'ena makvias yadav l'mala min hatzitz. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer af Kain Gadol, also the Kain Gadol magbiya yadav l'mala min hatzitz. He lifted his hands above the tzitz, Shenemar, now how do we know? This Shenemar is just how do we know that the Kohanim raised their hands. Shenemar v'yisa Arnes Yodov, and it also said in the end of the pasuk also in Bonav, so it's all the Kohanim. El ha'am, to the nation, vayavarchem, and bless them. Reb Chananya ben Akasha Amar.